part of the social engineering. It's like we're not educating our own children. So, and we didn't know. We thought could trust the government. I don't know why we thought we could trust the government, but we thought we could trust the government, and we can't. And so the government is in charge of the schools that educate our children in the public education system and even in private education. It's not us that's teaching us. And part of the reason why we're not teaching us is because so much knowledge has been lost because we've been so intermingled with other cultures. It's not just an identity. We don't know who the fuck we are. We don't. It's like, we're here in America. Are we African Americans? Are we Black? Who are we? Are we niggas? We don't know. Oh, I'm a nigga for real. It's like, I'm gonna be a nigga till I die. It's like we have been brainwashed. We have been programmed. We have fallen to propaganda. And it's because who's teaching us? It's like some people are self-taught. A lot of people are self-taught. But the ones who are not self-taught still need to be taught. And the fact that for the most part, after the 60s, we've allowed the government to teach our children. This is what we got.
How long is your list?
Wakanda 48.
Willing to die for.
Wakanda 48.
Willing to die for. How long is your list?
What is the tribal self?
Wakanda
The
48.
tribal self is what goes above the immediate acquaintances of the social.
Willing to die
The
for.
family, the people you know, live next door.
You will be willing
I'm
to
talking
die
about
for.
tribal self.
Wakanda 48.
I'm talking about those movies, those yet unborn ancestors is tied into the tribal self.
Wakanda 48.
What does that mean? That means that the tribal self constantly reminds us
Willing to die for.
that we don't have the right
How long is your
to
list?
claim independence
Wakanda 48.
of the history of which we are part. So, don't nobody stand with you through this history for the slaves in South Carolina. The tribe was in.
Peace and power. Once again, this is Panther 48. I'm Brother Sight calling out of Texas. We have Brother Ward, chairman of the San Diego chapter of the Black Panther Party, and our chairman emeritus of the Panther 48, calling out of California.
All power to people.
I have Brother E calling out of Florida. He's our chief of staff. I mean, not chief of staff. I mean, our Minister of Information emeritus. You've never in your life been a chief of staff. Our Minister of Information emeritus. I meant to pull, so we gonna talk about what we talk about. I almost pulled out my old uniform from 20 years ago, but Brother E calling out of Florida.
Hello. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to speak because you introduced me and then you started talking about your uniform.
Yeah.
I got confused, but hi.
and we have a special guest, Sister Felicia. She's from Chicago, and she's representing the Black woman's perspective today on our subject matter. Sister Felicia.
How y'all doing?
All right. Today, what we're going to do, we're going to get a Panther 48's review on the Wakanda Forever. And we felt like, since we're going to talk about the part 2, that we need to talk just a little bit about part 1 so we can compare and contrast a little bit. I'm going to give y'all my view of part 1, and then any of the other brothers and sisters on the panel want to come in and give theirs, they can. But see, my view, I loved part 1, loved it. We all know fictional movie, Marvel movie, but there was some beautiful points, I think, in the movie. If we look at things, it's a few things I like, and I'm gonna tell you the main thing that I like. But a few things I liked about the movie. You had some strong Black male characters in the first movie, and you had some strong Black female characters in the first movie. You have 3 that comes to mind off the top. You have the sister, I can't remember her name, the Black Panther sister, King T'Challa's sister. Anybody know her name?
Letitia Wright. Shuri.
Shuri, yeah, on the movie, yeah. She was intelligent, scientific. She was the one that invented everything. You got the warrior, the general, who was the fighter, honorable warrior who led the military. Then you got Lupita, who played the spy. These are like 3, and you got Angela Bassett, who was the queen as well. But you have these strong, powerful Black female characters in the movie. Then you have T'Challa, which is a strong Black lead male character in the movie. The king, very honorable, very noble man. And you have one of my favorite characters in the entire movie, Killmonger. Now, Killmonger, the reason he's so reason he's so standoutish to me, because if you look at it, Killmonger is your average African American, and not just your African American. He's the hood nigga. Excuse my language. Killmonger is the hood nigga straight out of Oakland. Daddy was upstairs in the apartment hustling. He on the basketball court as a kid playing basketball. Talks like the average hood nigga. He's the hood nigga, but he's not the average hood nigga because he's intelligent. He's also intelligent. He understands the concept of revolution. And if you look at what he come from, his father was already in the process of trying to create a revolutionary movement to a certain degree, because he was in disagreement with the way his people moved. He felt like his people were supposed to be doing more for his people in America. And that was Killmonger's whole thing. Killmonger felt like that his people in Wakanda basically left them struck out in America. So when he came to the throne and he took the throne, he wanted to basically wage a little war. And that's what I liked about this character and the concepts of these different characters in the movie. And even at the end, if you look at when Killmonger is about to die in the first movie, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but King T'Challa told him, man, do you want to live? He said, man, I'd rather die. I'd rather die like my ancestors. I'd rather die like my ancestors in the water. You know, that's what I liked about this character so much. But you can see the storyline that kind of compares to our storyline here in this country and the things that we went through in our past here in this country and coming from Africa. That's your cue right there, Brother Walk.
Well, yeah, that was real lame.
All right, well, let me go in
on
on
shit.
I want to start back also just with one point I think ought to be made leading up to part one, when you talk about the Captain America Civil War. And to me, that goes into when the death of the current king. So that current king got killed, and I think, and to me, I'm setting up a storyline, and so I want us to keep in mind the original Wakanda king that was portrayed in the movie got killed by basically a Manchurian candidate. So now, mind you, here we go. When we look at how situations are, when we talk about warfare, there was a Manchurian candidate that was killed. That killed the father, and then toward the end, what you had is you actually had Wakanda that protected this Manchurian candidate. So not only, to me, what is that like kind of like a slap in the face when we think about it, is you had somebody that destroyed the first king that ended up being under the protection of Wakanda. So moving into part one of the movie, now you have a different scenario to where basically the symbology of the Black Panther from the United States, who basically has to be considered to be misguided and has to be put in his place by the African Black Panther, and then ends up dying at the end and put in disgrace. So it's like, when I look at the legacy leading up to part two, at each situation you had an enemy that ultimately really may have had the right intention or come from the right perspective, who still never made Wakanda recognize where the United States is and where imperialism is, and as well as where, when they talk about the the colonizer is the whole time. So part one ends with them basically moving into where the CIA ends up being the one that protects or saves Wakanda. And when you look at the symbology and you look at the reality of what the CIA does around the world, the job of the CIA is to cripple and disrupt, as well as make sure they're always on top of what other. In order to keep the United States a world power, they create crippleizations across the country and across the world, I'm sorry. And so the same thing is kind of being symbolically portrayed in Wakanda, but people are not really peeping that. And so I just wanted to add that as we move into part two, because I'm gonna refer back to some aspects of that.
Sister Felicia, and one of y'all got something to say on that?
It was good.
Yeah, I'm gonna edit you out. War. Now
Yep.
Tell us about you. I know y'all had an event out there in San Diego for watching the movie. Tell us a little bit about that event that y'all had and the things that you set up.
Well, basically, the event that we did was because this is a Black Panther. Obviously, even though you're dealing with Marvel, the point being as there was a Black Panther event. So the Black Panther Party decided that we was going to show up. And as we showed up, our thing was to basically be a presence for those people that may actually be, believe it or not, seeking some sort of realization or some sort of thing to take away from this. So before the movie started, we had a flyer that we was handing out. And I'm just going to read the flyer, because my point was to get people to try to see this from a more progressive light, in terms of you were gathering up, we're getting together, and mind you, it was a lot of Black folks came out for this. They made it an African-centered theme. You had African drumming. You had a lot of folks, building with one another, coercing in terms of unity, happy, going into the movie all fired up in terms of just us coming together as a people. Okay, but mind you, this is all fictional. So then the document we handed out, it says the 10 points of action to achieve a real life, non-fictional Wakanda. So I just want to make sure I bring everybody to the reality of the fiction. So I said the real Wakanda is gaining our freedom through the practice of self-determination. The real Wakanda is embracing the process of resolving internalized hate and being healed from the sickness of the Willie Lynch syndrome. The real Wakanda is accepting the requirements of being held accountable for our destiny and to define the Black nation here in America and the diaspora. The real Wakanda is actively engaging in the political process and to empower our own legislative representation in all areas of the United States government as part of our strategy, a battlefield strategy. Number 5, the real Wakanda is employing our own educational institutions and teaching our youth in a non-linear fashion to be leaders and politicize them early in the fight for liberation and independence. The real Wakanda is embracing our skills learned from military service and require they be put to use for the building of a better way of life, not centered around self-destruction and warmongering. Number 7, the real Wakanda is actively pursuing an immediate end to police harassment, brutality, and murder of Black people and people of color, also doing what is required to enforce dignity and self-respect amongst ourselves. Number 8, the real Wakanda is holding ourselves to be financial budgets that are require accountable spending and to active circulation of currency within the Black community before going to outside sources. Number 9, the real Wakanda is to establish land, bread, housing, education, clothes, and justice, and peace for the people in the contested zone as a precondition to forming liberated zones, aka Black communities. Number 10, the real Wakanda is each person writing out a personal constitution in order to push Black unity and activism into gear so the collective power we show for a fictional Wakanda will be exercised in real life. And my position was going into it, getting folks to have something that snaps them back into the reality. Hey, this is a fictional thing, but at the same time, why we can't have the same level of energy, same level of excitement, and same level of banding together and coming together to create something that really can be symbolic within the Black community. So it was more or less just an opportunity for us to just engage the people.
All right. E,
Right.
When did you see the second movie, the Wakanda Forever?
I don't know. Yesterday, I guess.
Okay, that's great. That means that you'll be able to give us a quick outline of what the movie's about since you've seen it the most recently.
Not really. The sister saw it since I have, and my viewing experience wasn't the greatest because of how I saw it.
Oh,
I don't want to indict myself, so I just
Sister Felicia, you seen the movie recently?
I did. I saw it less than an hour ago.
Okay, that's great. All right, so what are your thoughts on the movie, Sister Felicia?
And so I liked it. I would say that I liked it. Was it the first movie? It wasn't the first movie, but the way they led into T'Challa's death and how they kind of honored him a couple of times through the movie was I really did appreciate that. And I also liked in the movie, even though it was basically a political war, it was really a spiritual war. And I like how the spirituality of the two cultures was interwoven with the political part of it, and how they showed each character's perspective, how it had validity. It's like even the winged fish god dude, he had a valid point. He had valid points. Yeah, he was the winged fish god dude. That's I forgot.
No more.
Namor. His name was
Yeah.
Namor.
Namor.
And everybody had like valid points, and I like how they showed that you can come from totally opposite perspectives, and your perspective can still be valid, even though it's not their perspective. And so I appreciated that part. I kind of didn't like how, in essence, they had another culture piggyback off Wakanda. I didn't like that part because it's always people piggybacking off our culture. And even though they did it and they tied it in and they had to have, I guess, a protagonist for that different storyline, it's still a piggyback. And so I kind of didn't like that. But then the way it came back around and he had to yield was good, even though he had an agenda. And so it kind of in a roundabout way, it showed life. It's like he was still an enemy, but for now, he was an enemy that was acting like an ally until he had an opportunity to take over. That's the world. That's life. That's how stuff goes, for real. And so I did like that part. I liked it. It was a good movie. I've been listening to people trying not to spoil it and telling their perspective, and I did. I liked the movie.
You actually did way better than these so-called seasoned podcast guys I got on real. I might have to edit both of them out because they didn't do they perspective was worthless. But now,
I didn't give one. What are you talking about?
Zero means with it means worthless. You gave us absolutely nothing. But okay,
well, to be fair, you were starting off on the old one, and that's the one that I said I didn't have. I mean, it was good. I'm done. I'm
gonna add to the sister Felicia. I'm gonna have a little bit of different perspective. The cold thing is, and I'm gonna start from the good. And I guess spoiler alert. I guess I will give a little spoiler. Guess I don't have a choice. But it's only two major redeeming factors for me in the movie. Now, Namor, I get it. I get it. The movie is essentially the what do they call it? The basis of the movie. What is that called in movies and books? The plot. Okay. The plot is essentially Namor's people has basically been conquered and handled by the Spanish conquistador. That's basically what happened. And somehow I can't remember how it went down, but they end up getting the powers of the god. And that's how Namor get the wings on his feet and these abilities to breathe underground.
Because their ancestors led them to the blue flower. It's like Wakanda had the purple flower, they had the blue one, but it was still vibranium. I guess they had a different mineral content. I don't know, but it was still the same flower.
And all of their people. Now the thing different between Namor and his people and the Wakandans is that Namor and his people realized the quote unquote surface dwellers were the enemy. They realized it because they almost wiped them out. And if you look at the movie, even though it's made in modern day, even it's supposed to be in modern day times, it's kind of, if you take this back, 5,000-6,000 years ago, you can kind of see Africa, when Africa was at the height of civilization, at the height of culture, at the height of technology, before we was invaded, before Africa was conquered, Africa was basically Wakanda, essentially. And Namor is talking from the point of view of his people already being wiped out by this enemy. And African people, Wakanda, not understanding how dangerous this enemy is. Like you said, he had an agenda. At the end, when he talking to his general, she said, "Why did you submit like that? What was that all about?" And one of the things he told her, and that's why I say one of the redeeming factors of this movie. One of the things he said that basically they sell out to the surface dwellers. They basically cow time to the surface dwellers right now. But sooner or later, the surface dwellers gonna turn on them. And who do you think they're gonna have to seek for an ally? Us. So basically, we just gonna wait. We gonna chill because they're gonna realize that these surface dwellers, these Europeans, whoever we want to call the surface dwellers, they're gonna realize sooner or later that they the enemy too. And that's essentially the fictional aspect of what Namor's whole plan was in the movie. Now, there's a lot of things in the movie I didn't like. One, I didn't like. You said another culture piggybacked off our culture. I didn't like them beating the hell out of us. I didn't like that. They beat the hell. We was basically ran over the entire movie. I hated the fact that there was no strong black male models in the entire movie. There was none. The biggest black dude, the one who fought T'Challa in the first movie, got punched by Namor and flew halfway around the world. I didn't like that. This dude, he was weak. He had absolutely nothing that he could do with Namor. The women.
He ain't died though. He ain't died.
No, he didn't die, but he got handled.
Let me say this first, Syke, before you move on, because to me, it's about being able to first put the perspective on where we're coming from and see what you're talking about now, which is why I went back to talking about the Civil War, even looking at the title of what these movies are. So we're dealing with the social engineering push as it applies to how the masses of our people get their knowledge and relative reality through motion pictures. And that's the problem, is because a lot of our people don't see the hidden symbolism that's going on within these movies, but yet they end up buying into the heroic aspects of the movies and walk out of these movies with a sense of distorted reality. And so that's why it's important that we bring back the awareness of what psychologically is going on in these movies and how the political aspect and political climate that's being portrayed in these movies may be fictional, but it's based on tactics that is constantly being used on the current generation as they watch these movies. So when you put that perspective into play, now that builds a case to be able to go into it and talk the way you're talking. So I think it's just important that people first know where we're coming from. Why is Panther 48 even talking about a damn fictional movie? We're talking about it because there's a whole lot of stuff that is interwoven in these movies that relate to being able to psychologically damage the current generation of people to prevent them from being able to actually create a real life Wakanda, as well as the whole docileness that is being portrayed. So now let's go back and let Syke finish where he's going, because the thing is, I just want to make sure folks see the perspective that we're headed from, because otherwise it really seems like we're attacking a movie. Well, we're not attacking the fictional Marvel thing. We're attacking how that is used as a backdrop to really put the people to sleep from a real life perspective and point of view.
I don't know of no civilization on the face of the planet Earth that didn't have female, masculine and feminine energy operating in balance and harmony in some kind of way. And it isn't there in this movie. That the movie is gynocentric. And I'm not against the feat. That's why I said what I said about the original movie. You had that balance there. You had some strong, powerful female characters in the first movie, but you also had some strong, powerful male characters in the first movie. And when you come to this second movie, the female basically it's basically what happened to us after slavery. Big Mama ran everything. Mud Deer essentially carried the family. And the black male had basically hold on. The black male has basically been a bomb. And this is what I see in this movie. I don't see one strong black male. One. When what's her name? Shuri? Is that her name?
Shuri.
When she ate the what's the name of that flower?
She drank the vibranium, the purple flower.
And when she went and saw her ancestors, who did she see?
Killmonger.
She saw my dude. And Killmonger told her, you didn't want to talk a while ago, E.
Because you asked about the first movie.
Killmonger, and I'm gonna pass it on. I'm gonna let y'all get in there because I see y'all want to jump in and attack me. So I'm gonna let y'all in. But I gotta quote Killmonger. Killmonger, when she was like, oh, why am I seeing you? She was like, oh no, man, look out, kinfolk. You know what I'm saying? I'm family too. You know, you got more in common with me than you thought. And he said, think about it. He said, your daddy was a sellout. This is the basically the African chief. If we tied to history, this is the African chief that sold his own people, sold slaves. Not saying all African people did, because I don't want to give people that type of weapon. I hate people when they use that. But he said, your daddy was a sellout. You know, he killed my daddy because he wanted to start the revolution. Your daddy was a sellout. Your brother, while honorable man, he was too noble. Your mama, if you look at the mama fought for the diaspora. She fought for the young girl that was from America, who the Namor and his people were going after. He said, but me, you know, then he asked, he said, so what you gonna do? You gonna be like your brother? You gonna be noble like your brother? Or you gonna handle business like me? To me, that was the most powerful scene in the movie to me. I love that scene in the movie. All right, y'all go in. I know y'all want to attack me. Go on and get in there.
Okay, so I don't think of it as attack. It's just another perspective. So you mentioned about how Big Mama took over after slavery. That was by default. Who else gonna do it? It's like, because they done already sold our fathers, they sold our brothers. And so Big Mama was there and she had to pick up the slack, so that's what she did. And it didn't stop, 400 years ago, that scenario that was navigated, it kept being replayed in different ways, where the black man was absent. And that was by design. This is to kill the family. And so, yeah, it was matrilineal, but it was matrilineal because there was no other choice. It's like, we either gonna lead or we gonna die. And we ain't gonna die.
And
because we...
go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, we ain't gonna die.
I agree 100. I agree 100% with you, 100%. But it was by design. See,
it was by design.
The black male was completely castrated the way he was for a reason. Look at E raising his hand. What do you think? We're in kindergarten? Jump in there.
And so it was by design, and that points a finger to the fact that the wars that have been perpetrated against Black people is not just political, it's not just geographical, it's spiritual. And until we get the spiritual aspect right, because the spirit is the backdrop for everything. Everything as above, so below. Everything happens in the spirit before it happens in our reality. And so until we get this spiritual aspect of what's going on with Black people correct, then we can be as smart as we want to be. It's not going to matter.
E, you had your hand up. What you wanted to say?
So, I'm
gonna edit you out, E. So
I know.
No, I'm playing. Go ahead.
But I'm gonna have the best part to say, so you're gonna have your own conflict there. So, I'm usually Mikey. Give to Mikey, he won't eat it. He hates everything. That's me. And I wanted to hate this movie. I really wanted to hate this movie.
I wanted to hate it.
When I knew it was coming out, all I could think of was Wonder Woman and that trite and Captain Marvel and all of these white women that are supposed to be warriors, going to battle and fighting men and white men and blah blah blah. And I think the reason I disliked it most, well, for one thing, is just for the sake of drumming up business, and it's salacious as hell. But the fact of the matter is, there is no precedent for white women being warriors and sticking it to the man and picking up the gauges and the rifles and whatnot and going to battle as a whole, as a mass, as a unit. Whereas for us, we do have precedents. One that comes to mind most is Queen Nzinga. In the mid 1600s, when the Mbundu people in the area of Angola were fighting the Portuguese. Her brother, the way she came to power was that her brother committed suicide during this time of turmoil, this battle, this war with the Portuguese. So she stepped up to the plate and led her folks, led her people in a fight against this white murderous onslaught. You have the Kandakis of Kush. One, and I always mess up her name, Queen Amarenus. I'm gonna just call her Queen A, because I don't say her name right. But this sister, and there were about 8 of them, there was a line of succession of these warrior queens that went to battle with the Romans. And this particular sister, the last one, was so fierce that she actually lost an eye in battle, went and healed up, and came back to fight some more. And the Romans would run many times when they saw these sisters and brothers too coming into battle, riding on the backs of these elephants. So from that perspective, I can see how it makes sense. The movie makes sense, and that's why it kind of irritates the shit out of me, because I don't know if they knew what they were doing, subconsciously if they did it or whatever. But the reality of it is, there have been many times in our history where that strong, powerful Black male, that African male presence simply was not there at the time. And so sisters had to step up, take the reins, and do what needed to be done. You're talking about Nanny, the Maroons, the Jamaican Maroons. who wired her people up and said that she made the call to all the women around her to pick up arms and fight the white man. So we've had that precedent set for us. And I know wars, like y'all have known sisters that though you knew if you got into a fist fight with her, you would win, but because of looking at her or her presence or whatever, you knew you were gonna feel it because she was just that tough. You knew that she was gonna come in and handle her business physically. She was gonna give you a run for it. So we have that precedence, we have that power. And I think that when we say that there wasn't a single male, African male character or moment outside of Killmonger, I think it's again us not, because of the cultural context that we're dealing with. Yes, it's fucked up the way that things are, the way that it gets laid out with the whole male-female battle that's going on and all of that, the blurring of the lines and whatnot. But when M'Baku, the gorilla, the head of the gorilla clan,
the Jabari tribe,
the Jabari tribe, when the sister came back from talking to Killmonger, or I don't even, and again, I missed some of the verbiage because of how I was watching it, but what I did get out of it was in that moment, he helped her to sort out her emotions and find clarity in that moment and understand the importance of doing what was necessary in terms of her ancestors and being true to that. And that's a primary role of the African male in a relationship with an African female, is to play exactly that. So to say that wasn't a strong moment, I think misses the point, because being a matrilineal system, the rulership of Wakanda had to go through the mother. And since she had no other male children, it would have been cheesy as hell for them to, which I all expected, for all of a sudden T'Challa's brother to come back from assignment or vacation or the penitentiary or wherever, came back just in time to save us in this struggle against whoever it is. It would have been cheesy as hell. Or all of a sudden Killmonger didn't actually die. They saved him, we just didn't show that part. That's the shit I would expect from Hollywood to do with this shit, but they didn't. They went the route that was actually more true to our reality, that we had a situation where there were no males in the line of succession. So a sister had to step in, rally the troops, and do what needs to be done. And at the end of it, fuck a spoiler, I don't give a shit. If you don't like it, you mute it, because I'm finna tell it. At the end of it, when, what's her name? The little scientist sister, when she got done doing what she needed to do in the heat of the moment, battling the Portuguese or whoever it was at the moment, she turned that shit over to M'Baku. So it's not that this was a prolonged, there were going to be no strong black African men to lead the nation the way African men lead nations. It's that in that moment, because of the politics, because of the matrilineal system, because of the way things are set up and run in our systems, that had to be done in that moment. So she assumed the role, did what had to be done, and then moved on. And as far as the other culture, that also alludes to the idea that things like the pyramids, there are pyramids all over South America. There are pyramids underwater around Japan. There are pyramids in other points on the planet Earth. So I didn't really see it as them piggybacking off of it, because when you're the original, everything else is a piggyback or building off of. My bad, War. I didn't mean to say piggyback. Don't hit me. Everything else is going to be a building off of what it is you did, because there is nothing else to build off of. So I liked that there was these two brown nations who had beef, but came together. Though they had to go just like we would try to handle shit. You go out, you having a disagreement, me and Syke having a disagreement, we wrestle and boom, 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 or War take me out to the woods and beat me up or whatnot, until the point that we're exhausted and we can have a conversation. Okay, now we have a conversation. Now we've reached an agreement. It may be touchy-feely, a volatile agreement, but an agreement nonetheless, between these two brown nations without white folk being involved. White folk were a side issue during this whole thing. If you notice, this was more a conversation between two brown nations dealing with how they're going to handle the oppressor. And I don't think that Wakanda is presented as a nation who doesn't realize the dangers of white folks, because the Queen, initially, when she was up talking to the U.S., whatever governing body that was supposed to be, she was giving her testimony.
The G9 conference.
The G9 conference, when she was giving her testimony in front of them, she said that, you know, we've held the vibranium and stuff away from the rest of the world because we know y'all don't know what the hell to do with it. We know you're gonna fuck up. So it wasn't a matter of not knowing who the enemy was or how bad they were. It was a matter of how to go about dealing with them. You know, and because of their, you know, Namor and his folk came up getting slapped around, whereas the Wakandans were able to separate and go into hiding and not be seen and develop without them there. So yeah, that whole dynamic between these two brown nations that were able to forge at least you know, my enemy's enemy is my friend, or you know, whatever it is they were able to develop and establish as a treaty between the two of them, as somewhat of a united front. Because remember, she said, we'd hide your secrets, we ain't gonna tell nobody about it, we the only two that know this, yada 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 yada. And establish that type of relationship without white folks in the picture, I think was very, very powerful. But yeah, unfortunately, I had to actually concede and be like, yeah, they kind of got it right. There was no direct line of leadership after T'Challa died. That was it as far as males. According to how we do things in our matrilineal systems, the next one in line was either the Queen or the little scientist sister. That's it. That's what you had. But they were in the middle of a war, and they couldn't just go around without, you know, somebody to be in the front. Somebody had to step up.
And I have no problem with the sister stepping up and become the Panther. That's not my issue. I don't even have a problem with what's the sister name? The general, the very honorable general. I love that sister. Her character.
Okoye.
What's her name?
Okoye.
Sister Felicia. Know all their names, but I love that sister. I just don't like the fact that there are no brothers being represented in that combat format. He's not. But
there are times when there are not any brothers to step up and take that role.
There have been times when there are no brothers step up and take that role since our oppression. And
no.
So you telling me before our oppression that we were just weak? It was just a time when we just wasn't nowhere around to do no fight.
That's not a sign of weakness.
Okay, let's change the word. We could not do combat. That's what you telling me.
We did combat.
Black males didn't do
I just listed off the Kandakis, Nanny, Yas Santiwa.
So where are we in this movie?
Black males. That's what I'm saying.
Black males. Maybe you don't understand what I'm saying.
Because the warrior is the warrior. The warrior is the warrior. Sometimes they get killed. Sometimes a lot of them get killed. When they get killed, what's supposed to happen? The rest of the villagers, everybody is not going to die. You can't just lay down and die. And so
I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying why is there no black male represented in that combat? He's not there.
Because in that snapshot of time.
What's her name? You said Okoye. Is that her name?
Okoye.
She couldn't beat the warrior from the other tribe. Let's call them Atlanteans. I don't know what we can call them. But she couldn't beat. But she fought. She fought hard. I see no black males fighting that hard in this movie. He's not there. He doesn't exist. So now you got to ask yourself, just like Ward was saying, when you understand the effects, because you got to understand that art imitates reality and reality imitates art. So you got women, just like Italians coming out of the Rocky movie, ready to punch. I'm like, woo! They feel like they can win. You got females coming out of this movie like, woo! But where's the model, the role model for the young black male to come out of this movie feeling like he can win? Where is it at?
Well, again, this is Hollywood. This is America. Ain't supposed to be no black role model up in there, number one.
Exactly, and that's the only point I'm making. I'm not saying it's not right for the sisters to fight. I'm not saying that we haven't done it historically. I'm pointing out that fact that you just said right now. That's it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there are no black male let's go beat them up role models in this movie, because it ostensibly a snapshot of a period of time where there were no black male role models to step up and take it in the line of succession.
It's very political, because the the fans of the movie did not want T'Challa to come back, and they didn't want anybody to replace him. So it is essentially the fans that kind of erase the potential of the black male role model, because they didn't want anybody to outshine T'Challa because he died.
Let me add
the whole backstory to the movie.
Let me add this to the whole thing. This is the part that, to me, that's important that we portray. Again, going back to Civil War, the idea of a Civil War and the idea of what happened. The first king that we get exposed to Wakanda gets killed for dealing with what? The European Union or the Council of Nations coming together. He gets attacked by somebody that was brainwashed. The same tactic that they do now when they want to kill people. A Manchurian candidate blows themselves up and it creates an explosion and kills him. And then the Wakanda king at that point in time ends up in a situation where he is fought against for trying to bring justice upon someone that attacked their nation. And mind you, throughout the whole course of this, what he's being done is he's being controlled to prevent Wakanda from sending the proper message that it should send when somebody attacks our nation, what we gonna do. Instead, he protects the person that attacked and killed the king. And not only do we protect them, but you bring the CIA in and you allow the CIA to, in the end of the movie, to be the one that stops the African American from who recognizes the destruction that's been brought upon by the planet, by the quote unquote colonizer, who is being stopped by the African. So you create a scenario where you got the African attacking and putting down the quote unquote African American in his place because he's right there in the belly of the beast. He sees the destruction that is being done by the planet. He sees how culture is being destroyed. And yet it's the African that comes against the African American and puts him in his place. And it's the same African that continues to protect the colonizer throughout the whole plot and moves on into Wakanda Part 2, who sneaks, helps, and works with the colonizer or the CIA again. What is this psychologically doing to our people that anytime we talk about revolution, what do you allow to come into play? A CIA, an agent provocateur, or somebody that's going to condemn the idea of the fact that we need to be able to engage in revolution. When you had those the ones that came from the sea who recognized this, because at this point when they know that they got exposed, they initially went to Wakanda and say, hey, we need to deal with them because this is what they have always historically done. And instead of Wakanda saying, well, maybe now is the time, now is not the time to strike, you create a situation where the two powerful nations, the holders of the might, the holders of the resources of the world, fight each other. Period. Fight each other. And in the end, it is always the CIA that is in the midst of these situations. When you talk about real world politics, in the midst of the situations to make other nations fight each other, to prevent them from ever being able to come together, like we talk about the unification of our people, being able to come together so we can do what we're supposed to do and handle business, just like Killmonger said. That's what I'm getting at. I'm getting at the psychological damage that is going on, that people walk out of the movie with in terms of what they deem to be a hero. That's just my point. I'm gonna keep hitting on.
I'm with War on this one. I'm with War.
Yeah, I got no beef with that at all. I mean, hell, the word entertain means to go in and to hold at a particular mindset. That's what the fucking word means, is to hold you in a mindset. Get that.
And that's my problem. Again, let me make sure, because sometimes, because of where we're at and how we've been programmed to think, a lot of times we think in a linear way of thinking instead of in that cycler way of thinking that we as African people have always thought. If I say I don't like the fact that there are no black strong role models in the movie, it automatically is taken as I don't like the strong black female models. And that's not the truth. I don't like the fact that it's so gynocentric and it's only black strong female models. To me, that's a problem. And as you just said, what the word entertain means, this is not the idea that we really want Black men in this country that is already destroying Black men and effeminizing Black men to have in their thoughts. Black males are already too goddamn gay, they pants too tight, they colors too bright, they voice too damn light, and then the ones that do got a little fight in them, they killing each other. I think the last thing we need to see was a movie that only had our females dominating and running everything. You know, and you got so many mama's boys running around. And for the sisters, I apologize. And I understand and I respect the fact that we was put asunder, we were dominated, and we were put in the dirt, and y'all had to keep the nation going. I feel that. But God damn it, it's time for Black men to really be men again and stand up. That's where I feel. That's my thought process on it.
So, from a scientific point of view about males in general, what makes males the male is this testosterone. Testosterone is decreasing in males around the globe, period. It just is. As a woman, and that's what I am, I would love to have strong Black men around us and in their families. That hasn't been our reality. That hasn't been our reality. And it's by design again. And I'm aware that everybody is not aware. All women are not aware of that, but it is by design that the Black family has been divided, and it's by this social construct. That's exactly what it is. And now what? What's the solution? It's like, we can look at politics, we can look at the government, and we do. We can look at our educational system, and we do. We can look at our economic system, and we do. I think one of the differences that's keeping us out of balance, other than of course, it's like there's a shortage of Black men. There's a shortage of Black men. And so if there's a shortage of Black men, there's a shortage of fathers, there's a shortage of husbands. And so what do you do about that when the social engineering, because that's what it is, it's like it's brought us to this point. Now what?
And I think
it's like strong Black women, which is a misnomer. I hate the fucking term. I really do, because it's by default. It's like strong Black women are strong Black women because we didn't have a choice. You either gonna sink or swim. You either gonna live or die. We decided to live. And so now what?
I think that there is nothing wrong with strong Black women when it's defined, because women are the physical manifestation of that feminine energy that actually comes from God, that's required for creation to exist. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people misunderstand female and woman. They misunderstand it. Like a lot of times people misunderstand masculine and man. I had somebody tell me recently they was a man, and I asked them to define that, because to me, manhood is earned. It's not just something that you are because you have a penis. Penis doesn't make you a man, it makes you a male. And I love how Dr. Naeem Akbar breaks it down in the Psychological Change Slavery. I think that's the book. I love how he breaks it down. He say that maleness is defined by a penis. He say boys are defined because boys make sense of their reality through play. Boys like to play. They like to run games. They like to play games. They like to pretend that they something that they're not. They like to pretend that their little hood street gang is a nation. They like to pretend. And men build institutions, and they lead those institutions to beautify humanity. So men are defined by their ability to not only build civilization, but to build boys into men. Men have that quality. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, and like you just said, by design, by social engineering, that manness or that manhood has been taken out of men. So a woman has a certain strength, and she has a certain strength that only she has the ability to bring properly on the planet. Only she has it. And men have a certain strength that only men have the ability to properly express it on the planet. So these two energies are necessary. They're required. I'm not dogging out the female strength and nature. One thing about nature will do whatever it takes to survive. So if you remove the male, the females will stand up and attempt to carry the nation. But the females can only do so much. A female was made a female for a reason. There's a reason for it. And when the female has to step into quote unquote traditionally male roles, it balances our energy. It creates an imbalance. That's why I just used the example of these boys running around pretending that they're men. You just said there's a lack of manhood. You just said it. But males are all over the place. I can't go nowhere without seeing a male. But it's a lack of manhood. And that's what happened. It was by design, because they feared the strength of that black man being who he was meant to be. They didn't fear the female strength as much. They didn't fear y'all as much. And that's not a put down to women, but they don't fear that as much. Look at this dude with his hand. When you start raising your hand, where you come from?
I'm trying to be polite. We have a guest. I'm trying to be polite. Trying to, y'all tell me I got to be polite and nice and politic and whatnot.
Oh, let me say this for y'all get in. Let me say, go ahead, my bad. Because I wanted to go back to the movie. You want to do what?
I got a point out to eat. Let you go, and then I got a point I want to make.
Well, let me say this right real quick. And this, none of y'all gonna be able to speak on this. Y'all don't have the experience.
No.
None of y'all are gonna be able to speak on this.
All right.
I predict that this movie, once it play on TNT or whatever, is gonna have an extremely negative effect in Texas prisons. Because see, let me tell you what happens in prison. Let me tell you what happens. Unfortunately, and I don't think that this should be like this, but unfortunately, blacks and Mexicans feud in prison. Mexicans in Texas prisons are almost like the Klan. They can't stand black people. And this movie with blacks and Mexicans going against each other, that's the first thing came to mind, because that's what's happening in Texas prison. That's what's happening. You have the brown culture and the black culture, a consistent war and battle with each other. 9 times out of 10, if a riot happens in prison, it's between blacks and browns in prison. And when this movie drops in prison with these Atlanteans, I don't know what to call them because I had to see the movie.
Yeah, I think that's what their names were. Yeah.
With them running around beating the brakes off us like this, man, I can see the Tungo Blast going crazy. That's the biggest gang in Texas prison. I can see them going crazy, But go ahead, E. Go ahead and jump in there.
I guess I'm looking at it from the perspective of teaching a class, and I could use this movie to teach a class easily. Just rip a class apart and go all kinds of ways. It's like you missed some of the best classes while you was on vacation. But 2 points. You said, and this is a shout out to the trans community, a penis don't make you a male. It's your X and Y, it's your chromosome. So when you set that aside, y'all go on with that. Just to be clear about it, because nobody ever says that. It's always this conversation, what makes a male. It's not your dick, it's not your vagina, it's your fucking chromosomes. So until you change those, you're still a male. But the sister asked the question.
I like that scientific view that you just gave me. Go ahead.
But the sister asked the question, and I think it's a valid question. So what now?
Oh,
I didn't give an answer. I must have went on a tirade because I did
have
an answer.
Let me jump in on that. Let me jump on that. Kind of it goes right into what part of what we're doing. And we have to call it out. We have to call out the fact that we are at war. We have to make sure the public recognizes the fact that you need to stop getting your knowledge, your strength, your drive, and your quote unquote information from these Hollywood movies and think that you know something. And that's part of what's happening through social engineering with this younger generation, is that instead of them doing proper research, they really are taking in what they consider to be their historical reference point from movies. And not even understanding that a lot of the movies that have been made from Hollywood are made from a book, but the movie cannot possibly in 2 hours get you anywhere near the level of depthness that a book that was written before the movie came out about. And then all of the reference points that go into the historical and research of making a book that you may need to study from. But what I would like to say is another aspect of what has to be done is drawing out the fact that what's being done, that's why I keep referencing the whole CIA part, is because we have to see that it's a psychological warfare. And through the psychological warfare, what they are doing to the masses of people is getting them stuck on identity politics. Identity politics basically creates a situation to where the individual gets to decide how they want to be viewed in life. And this is why social engineering through the concept of virtual reality is so important and so key right now. Because by doing that, by creating this false reality that people can now engage in, that reality becomes more valid and has more power than the real reality. So people basically go around and create how they want to be viewed and how they want the world to see them. And this is becoming more and more of a reality, is a virtual reality. Through that virtual reality, I can let my avatar be a woman. My avatar don't have to be a man because I'm a man. I can let my avatar have this specific type of environment, have this specific background, have this specific set of superpowers, and so on and so forth. People are engaging in virtual reality and making it their reality. And by doing this from this position of identity politics, this causes a person to have a warped sense of real reality. And through that warped sense of real reality, it is more important to me now to get everybody else to identify me as to what I want to represent, as opposed of recognizing the collective awareness of a people. And then through that, it automatically creates a situation of polarization between whether you talk about a real male or manhood and female or masculinity and feminism. So the point is now you create a scenario where everybody can be at war with one another because it's all about my individual identity, and that's what counts. And it's a bit individual identity cult and complex goes against a people that has lost its identity, lost its culture, lost its way of life. How can you go from not knowing what you are to now calling yourself something from an individual level and think that's not going to send you further down a rabbit hole of self-destructive behavior? And this is what's happening. And these movies, especially like this one, does the same thing.
Miseducation is part of the social engineering. It's like we're not educating our own children. So, and we didn't know. We thought we could trust the government. I don't know why we thought we could trust the government, but we thought we could trust the government, and we can't. And so the government is in charge of the schools that educate our children in the public education system and even in private education. It's not us that's teaching us. And part of the reason why we're not teaching us is because so much knowledge has been lost because we've been so intermingled with other cultures. It's not just an identity. We don't know who the fuck we are. We don't. It's like, we're here in America. Are we African American? Are we black? Who are we? Are we niggas? We don't know. Oh, I'm a nigga for real. It's like I'm gonna be a nigga till I die. It's like we have been brainwashed, we have been programmed, we have fallen to propaganda, and it's because who's teaching us? It's like some people are self-taught, a lot of people are self-taught, but the ones who are not self-taught still need to be taught. And the fact that for the most part, after the 60s, we've allowed the government to teach our children. This is what we got. And they're being programmed to choose virtual reality over real reality. It's like this whole generation of kids, they'd rather be inside somewhere on a computer, on a phone, on some type of device. They don't even go outside anymore. It's like we were always outside as kids because we know that we need to be in nature in order to be grounded, in order to be connected to our source, whatever we consider that to be. They've lost that, but they've been programmed to lose it. They took books out of schools. We got tablets now. It's not the same. And it's hard to explain to somebody that doesn't know that reading a book on a tablet is not the same as reading a book. It doesn't even activate the same neural synapses. It doesn't even activate the same neural connections in your brain when you read on a tablet as opposed to reading in a book. We don't know that. It's like there are a lot of, things that are coming to us now that are convenient, but in order to get something, you got to give something. We don't know what we've given up for all of the conveniences that we have, but they're not going away. They're here. We can't ignore them. But yeah, it's like we haven't educated ourselves. We just haven't. And we don't have the same, because the family is torn apart. And even though Christianity was our spiritual base, and I'm saying was because a lot of us are waking up, that's the Roman religion, that's the slave master's religion. It just is what it is. we still had a place to come and talk, even if it was under syncretism, where it's like we chose to be Christian, but we were really talking about what happened when we were in our motherland. We've lost a lot of that. We've lost most of that. And now we're so far, everybody is so, we're separated. It's like families, it's not just that fathers are not in the family anymore. It's like we are far and wide from our familiar base. And so we don't even have the same tickler files for the traditions that we used to have, because now we someplace else in somebody else's land. Even if you're from Alabama and now you live in New York, or you from Mississippi and now you live somewhere, I don't know, in Maryland, it's like it's different traditions, it's different things that they do in different regions. And so now we're disconnected again. And so it's like our crisis is very much an identity crisis. We don't know who we are. And we can talk about Africa. We ain't never been to Africa. Now, if we go over there and we touch the soil, we might have a spiritual connection. We probably will, but we haven't done that. Most of us, because of economic barriers, we can't do that. It's like, and even those of us who do go to Africa, it's not most of us. It's less than 1%. And so if we're not accepted in this land, the one that we built, because that's what we did, we built this land, and we don't have the resources to go to the land that we're from, now what? How do we all of a sudden become illuminated on who we are? Because the European knows who we are. That's why they fight us so hard, because they don't want us to wake up and realize who we are. So other people know who we are. It's just us that we don't know who we are.
Let me jump in there, E, because I know you want to say something, and I got to jump in there because that's the answer. I always say this, PEACE, as an acronym, PEACE, positive education always corrects errors. So I do believe that is the solution. And I use my personal example, not saying that it changed the world, but I saw how, and it ain't gonna happen overnight, but I saw personally how introducing new information to a mind that's been in the dark so long can enlighten and waken brothers up. When I created the manhood training class while I was incarcerated and started teaching those brothers, not only, and see, this is very important, and we're talking about the Black Panther, but I'm going to the Matrix a little bit. If you notice, when Neo was woke up, when he took the red pill and he became conscious, not only did he download himself with information, but then as soon as he, came out of the church from downloading, Morpheus tell him, he say, what you doing? He say, man, I know Kung Fu. He say, show me. Then they went into physical training. So you had to do a mental training and a physical training because you got a mind and a body. And that's one of the things that I did with the brothers down there. We did a mental training and a physical training. You had brothers that wanted to do the physical training because everybody want to fight, but it was a requirement that you do the mental training first. The mental training was a requirement, was to pay to become a part of the physical training. And these brothers, while they wasn't the biggest gang on the unit, they wasn't the biggest clique, that was groups that had way more people than them. But this group had way more power. And they could walk and move 3 and 4 brothers at a time, and they could part the sea. Brothers would move out of their way. Because you saw the strongest, physically, the strongest brothers on the unit, and you saw the strongest brothers mentally on the unit. But it started from brothers who almost couldn't read. These brothers was functionally illiterate until they started learning how to put words together, until they started relearning how to spell. And then, and don't take this to y'all head, E and War, when I say this, but they would be like, they would tell me, and this is no cap on myself either, man, you the smartest brother I ever met. And I say, here, I'm a unicorn. Amongst my brothers, you ought to see Brother E, or you ought to meet Brother War. Amongst my brothers, I'm just one of the brothers. And they would get it, man, I want to meet Brother E. I want to meet Brother War. I want to go around those brothers. I've never in my life been around intelligent black men. And that inspires these brothers. And I'm not lying, I'm not capping, it's gonna be put on YouTube. And it's a lot of those brothers that participated in that while we were down there that watched this channel, and they could tell the word, this dude is lying, but they can't because I'm not lying. But yeah, the education is the process that we have to go, that we have to actually put black manhood back on the agenda. We have to do that. And that is not taking anything away from the sisters, but I do have to take something from the sisters. We have to take a little bit of that manliness that the sisters have picked up over the last few hundred years and pull that up out of them. I need the sisters to be women. And I ain't saying nothing soft. I'm not saying I want the sisters to be weak. I want the sisters comfortable enough to just really be women again. Because sometimes you'll have, just like sometimes you had these brainwashed Negroes trying to out Christian to Christian or out Muslim to Muslim. You have some of these brainwashed sisters that have been around white folks so long, they try to outman the man. They'll talk bad to the man and talk crazy as hell to the man. And the man is almost left not only emasculated by the society that he just left the world fighting, he walk into his home. Sometimes the man will sit in his car, he'll pull up to the and I ain't talking about myself because I live alone, but he'll pull up in the driveway, and he'll just sit there and he'll be like, God, I don't want to go in there dealing with her. He'll sit there because he has another fight he got to go fight. And I got to say it because Brother E ain't bold enough to say it, so I'm going to say it. Well, go ahead, Brother E. You had something you wanted to say.
No, I'll say it. I'll be the first one to say it. Shit. I haven't forgot. Something about education, I think.
That's the answer.
Oh, I know what it was. So here's my thing. The Panther movie from years and years ago with Huey and Bobby, you know, back in the day, Panther, whatever it was called. At the end of it, Kadeem Hardison. Huh?
The one by Van People.
Yeah, them. At the end of it, Kadeem Hardison's character is lamenting the influx of drugs in our community and quoting some statistics and whatnot. He said at that point, the biggest problem were the two I's, ignorance and inertia. From where I'm sitting, the issues that we have today are the two A's. Now I forgot what they are. Arrogance and damn, I forgot the other one.
Apathy.
Apathy, that's it. Apathy and arrogance. You know, those who say they know some things and say they care are arrogant to the point of not doing anything. And the reality of it is we keep saying education, 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 but the greatest education our children receive is not what they read in a book or online or any place else. It's from what they see us doing. And if y'all think back, that was one of the main reasons I would always have Rashida and Taihimba around, so that they could see this is not just that Baba talking some shit, he's actually doing this shit. And so until we get ourselves, those of us who supposedly know, begin living it, because at this point, Black Power is just a good idea, nothing else. So until we get to the point where we're willing to make the so-called sacrifices, which they're really not even sacrifices. I had somebody tell me one time that we were having this conversation about economics. You know how I am about economics. They said, but you need money to live. And it clicked for a second. No, you don't. You don't fucking need money to live. The only time you need money is to live comfortably. The only thing you really need money for is to have the trappings that we say we don't want to be trapped by. There are hundreds of people that live off grid, who don't work jobs, who live in the wilderness. I've heard it said a whole bunch of times, if you spend your life doing what it is you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. I know we've heard that word basically applied to, you know, become an entrepreneur and do what it is you really like to do, and you'll never be working. But if this lifestyle of living what it is we say is something that we truly love, this being self-sufficient and whatnot is something that we truly love, then we would do it and never work a day in our lives. So when our children see us, even when they see us say ABC, or they hear us say ABC, but they turn around and watch us doing CBA. We're not living what it is we talk about. We're still at the point of saying it over and over and over again. And when you deal with the people at this point in time, what went on during slave time, similar to the military, when you go into the military intake and in the penitentiary intake, their primary objective is to strip you of your identity. And that's what we went through the whole slave process, not just when we got here, but ever since we've been here. And now they've replaced that identity with an identity that they control, whether it's in the metaverse, whether it's through the music, whether it's through entertainment, whether it's through whatever it is. They have an identity that seems much easier because through our actions, we've taught them to find the easiest route. Because I'm gonna tell you what, raising chickens and rabbits, chopping your own firewood, digging your own trenches to control the flooding around your house and building chicken coops, all this shit is some hard fucking work. It's not fly, it's not easy, it's not none of that, but I love it. So I'm not working, I'm simply doing. And I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but we have to at least realize when we tell our children about being free, when we tell our children about our identity, but then we live an identity as defined by somebody else, whatever our reasoning is, we are still giving them that example, that conflicting idea, do as I say, not as I do type of scenario, and so it's not education in the sense that, yes, books, I love books, the tacit feel, I grew up with books, love the smell of books, being around books. Me and War, you remember back in the day, we used to go to the bookstore and hang out. Like, that's how square we were or are. And Psych too, he square shit. He won't let people know, but Psych squares a pool table twice as green. Ha ha ha! I get to use it on you now. So yes, books and all of those things are absolutely necessary. But what's more mandatory, because we were teaching these things without books for thousands of years. We're not a people who did the book thing. Most of our traditions are oral. Most of our traditions are through what we do, how we are. So as long as we continue to live this one lifestyle and say something else, we're just rearing children that are comfortable with this contradiction of reality. So, having this identity, being able to choose, I'm gonna be and that's one of the issues. Ben Alan Watts, applying some of the stuff that he says on a metaphysical level to the physical, you can't fix yourself, because the thing that's supposed to fix yourself is the thing that's broken. And that's why reflection is so important, because especially for African people, our identity is drawn from other African people. We understand that our community and our environment define who it is we are. I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I'm not who you think I am. I am who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. So our reality is defined, our identities in this world and where we fit in are defined by our relationships with other folks. And if we don't repair those relationships through our actions, not some words, but through our actions, and I don't just mean the relationship with the Black community, I mean the relationship with the white community. That's the most devastating, because we continue to empower them. Malcolm used to talk about it. He said, you tear up the community, you bring down the community yourself. You take money out of our community and then say, look at them niggas over there. That's a hood, that's a ghetto, that's a horrible place to live in over there. You did it. You left the motherfucker. You didn't go back and try to put anything in it. So of course it's gonna be fucking run down. You did it yourself. That's just fucking common sense, but we're reared generation after generation to be okay with this contradiction because we need to survive. That's your Killmonger. We just want to survive. Killmonger said, fuck that. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, Huey. That's what they were talking about. And if we're not willing to do that, we can't expect the next generation to do that. We have no business complaining about what they're doing because we're not fucking doing it. We refuse to put aside those things, those shiny shit that everybody can get that defines our reality and our identity for the sake of developing something, not just for the community, because that's some ambiguous, that's just a word. I'm talking about your kids. When your child gets beat up and thrown in jail by the pigs for nothing, you didn't do shit, and then you turn around and complain about it, you fucking did it. Quit giving them money. Quit voting for them. Quit telling them it's all right. If me and Syke go and get in a pickup game of basketball down at the court, and every time I go up to shoot the ball, Syke fouls me, hits me in my stomach. Oh, first time, okay, it was a foul, no problem. Shit happened. Okay, I'm coming down again. I'm going to make a layup. He fouls me, knocks me down on my head again. Eventually, I'm gonna have to make a decision. Either this dude is clumsy as fuck, or he's trying to hurt me while we play this game. Either way, at some point, I'm taking my ball, I'm going to fuck home. I'm not gonna keep playing the game with you. I'm not. Damned if I don't know what other game there is to play this shit that I'm doing ain't fucking working. It ain't fucking working. I don't know any other guy. I don't know how to play football, baseball, soccer, none of that shit. But this basketball game y'all got me where y'all keep fouling me and shit, it ain't fucking working. I'm out. So any place is better than here. Any place is better than here. But we've been tricked into thinking that, nah, we can't do any better than this. This is freedom. This is life. This is as good as it gets. And as long as we buy into that, we help the oppressor by selling it to our children. And each generation takes it a little bit further, a little bit further, and a little bit further. And it's going to keep going that direction until somebody puts the brakes on it and says, fuck this. I'd rather die than deal with this shit. I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory. At least for me, that's much more that's going to be much more of an education to the children. We don't remember so much the people that went along to get along in history, who just, okay, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna stay in my job, I'm gonna be quiet, I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna do this and that. No, we remember cats that said, fuck this, we're gonna change this shit. We remember Malcolm because he said, fuck that shit. We remember Marcus because he said, fuck that shit. We remember Dr. King because to whatever degree he said, fuck that shit. We're gonna change this shit. I don't know to what necessarily. I don't have another government or another system or another economic system put in place, but something is gonna be better than this shit. And we're not at that point anymore. We're too fucking comfortable. We used to have a debate back in the day about air conditioning. Or we talk about technology. It's not technology that's fucked up, it's the application. We lived for thousands and thousands and thousands of years without the AC on. Now, and I'm gonna say it, now niggas act like they can't get out in the sun and do a little bit of work in a garden for themselves. They'll do it for the oppressor, but when they come home, they got to have the AC. You don't have to have the AC on. You don't have to have your trinkets. You don't have to be comfortable. Get uncomfortable. That's what we need, is to be uncomfortable. We're too comfortable in our own slavery. So we have to live that difference. We have to live that reality. That reality says that this shit is fucked up. Because as long as you go ahead and go along with it, you can't tell me you think this shit is fucked up. Because you going along with it. If you think it's fucked up,
people need alternatives too. It's like,
but you have to create the alternative.
True.
You have to be the alternative.
This is the thing, though, and I get it. I don't even disagree that you got to be the change. All right, Obama, I understand.
Oh shit, she cussed me out. God damn. Oh shit, I quit.
It's a hope.
But yeah, it's kind of like when I was growing up in the 80s, whatever. I didn't have any instructions for life except don't get pregnant. I'm a girl. That's the only thing they care about, is you not getting pregnant. They don't tell you how not to get pregnant. They don't tell you what to do in place of the things that you do to get pregnant. They don't give you any other instructions on what else the fuck you're supposed to do except don't get pregnant. Well, guess what? There's a lot of laws of the universe. Guess what you get when you focus on something? It don't matter what it is. When you focus on something, that's what you get. And so if I'm the little black girl from Chicago focusing on not getting pregnant, what do I get? A kid, as a kid, because that's how it works psychologically. And from a psychological standpoint, Brother E, you can go out in a blaze of glory, you can be a martyr, you can, I'm ready to die for this shit, bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships, Killmonger, yada, yada, yada. Guess what? Now the same black women that we talking about that's taking over, that's being the niggas that we couldn't find, now we in a position again to do the same thing because the men are gone again. And so what solution to the now what is going to bring us back together in balance with the understanding of what our roles are? Because a lot of us, because we grew up in single parent homes, I didn't grow up in a single parent home, but a lot of us grew up in a single parent home and we don't know what the roles are. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing. Now, in essence, the man bring his 100, the woman bring her 100, and we help each other do what we need to do to build our family, to make everything the way we need it to be comfortable. I know you said we too comfortable being comfortable, but we really comfortable being uncomfortable because we've never been comfortable since we've been in the United States. So we're not comfortable, but we have been brainwashed into thinking that the things that have been presented to us as comforts are really comforts, and they're really not. Kind of like wearing a mask. It's like it's not. And so they fuck with our heads. And they've done a very thoroughly good job with it. And so in order to come back in balance, because that's really what we're out of balance, period. It's like it takes a man and a woman to make another human, but once the human is made, if it took all of that to bring them into conception, it takes that and more to bring them into being a person who knows who they are and what they're here for, who can find their purpose in life. It takes all of that. That's what the imbalance is. And throughout those 18 years that you got your kid with you, that's when the education is supposed to go forth. But to your point, Brother E, if mama is working because we need to, survive, and daddy, who may or may not be there, is also working, it's society who is raising our kids. And so that's really the problem. It's like you can teach a kid anything before 6 years of age. It's like they're sponges, they're gonna learn it. It's scientifically proven. If you want them to be a ballerina, you start when they're young. By the time they're 6, they are on a trajectory to be the best ballerina ever. It's like those are the years that we're at work the most. It's like after you had a baby, is what costs a lot of money? Freaking babies. Kids are expensive. I gotta go to work. And so you take them to daycare, you put them in school. And when we all come back together at night at 6:30, everybody tired. And you don't live with your mama no more. Your aunties are over there. Our grandfathers and our uncles, they've been dead. And so it's like the thing about the family being split, that's the foundation. The education is the foundation. And so it takes about a generation for evolution to occur on an incremental scale. And so, and it's not any hard and fast number to what a generation is. It's around 40 years. That's it's 30 to 40 years, and they got all kinds of formulas or whatever. But in my generation, that was the beginning of the fathers not being in the family on a wide scale. And the next generation, they almost all gone. And so now the mothers are raising the children, specifically the sons. And I'm intelligent. I tell everybody, anybody that know me know I'm smart. I've been the smartest person in a lot of rooms that I stood in. But guess what? I know that as a woman, I can't raise a man because I'm not a man. I can raise a good boy. I can raise a good kid, but I can't raise a man because I'm XX, I ain't XY. And I have natural inclinations and natural proclivities because I'm a woman. What I'm gonna do with my male child? What I do with that? If his daddy ain't there, I see a hand in the back.
Hey.
Hey.
I ain't respecting that hand and everything. I don't know what you got going on. But I'm gonna say this real quick. No, I'm not. Go ahead, E. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's the same answer. If you believe a certain thing, then everything, what you believe is not expressed through what you say, it's through how you live. So to whatever degree, single mother or not, Rashida and Tahima's moms was around for a while, she wasn't around, but I created a scenario where there were other strong males besides me and strong females within the Panther Party, adjacent to the Panther Party, where there were these role models, where there were these folks who could, to whatever degree, fill that in, could address some of those needs that my boy and girl needed to have filled. So it's not a matter, the system, yes, it's set up and designed to keep us too busy and too tired to focus on what it is that's most healthy for us.
That was what the last Matrix movie was about. The last Matrix movie, that was the system of control in that movie. The work, career, being busy, family, all that. But go ahead, my man, go ahead.
So, but we get sucked into that, and we buy into it more and more and more, and lay that out as the design and the purpose and the goal, rather than emphasizing it takes less money to fill your house with books than it does to get a PlayStation. But we take the PlayStation route because it's easier, because it keeps them entertained, mentally held in a certain spot, so that we can do whatever else it is we're doing. It takes a lot more effort. You know, when Rashid and Taima were little, every time we were together, they had an hour of reading, because I always told them, you need to read, you need to learn. So because I believed that, I did it. So it's not a matter of, again, sacrificing. It's a matter of what options are we choosing. Again, it takes just as much effort. It takes less money to purchase certain things and to live certain lifestyles than it does to keep up with the Joneses, than it does to make things fluffy and comfortable and less, you know, perplexing or stressful or whatnot. And one of the side issues, I guess you could say, of sisters being in the forefront of raising or rearing our families is that the nature of the sister is to nurture, to kiss those boo-boos, to make the kid feel more comfortable and calm them down and relax them and make the pain go away. Whereas for the man, our responsibility is to push them back out there so they can get banged around some more. And because of that natural inclination, sisters are put in a situation where they have to appease those desires of the children. You know, as a baba, as a father, it was less my concern if the children were, I won't say happy, but that I was less concerned with getting them what they wanted than giving them what it is they needed. Even if it pissed them off, even if they didn't like it, even if it was more trouble, I needed to get them what they needed. Damn what you want. Let your mama deal with that. I'm dealing with what it is you need. And so addressing those needs above this inclination when back in slave times, because the sister would see a brother stand up to master and say, you can't rape my woman. You can't take my children away. You can't, to see a black man, an African man stand up during slave times would mean that he would get, you know, beat down. He would get lynched. He would get buried. And so the sister, because of her nature, when she see her little boy put his chest up and start to defend his mother, his sisters, or himself even, will put a hand on his chest, push that chest down and push him back behind her, because she didn't want to happen to him what she saw happen to his father or some other black male on the plantation. And sisters still do that. That's a natural inclination. And so because that happens, that black bravado, that African, that strong African figure that you were talking about, Syke, when that shit starts to pop up, even in the hood, sister's inclination is to push him back a little bit. You can't do that, baby, rather than encourage, because she's worried about his life. Understandably, that's what she's supposed to do. Black man's supposed to come in and say, no, let's ride, let's go, let's do this, because that's what we do. But we can't give into that. We have to be able to recognize at some point that, okay, when I say I can't raise a boy to be a man, this is what they were talking about. You know, I can't bring up a Huey P. Newton because Huey P. Newton is not in me as a man. It's going to take a man for that. So the most I can do is stand back some and talk to somebody else, have conversations, surround myself and my family with those who have a certain mindset that reflects what it is I say I believe, and allow that to take root in that child. Whether that child is 2-parent family, 1-parent family, whatever it is. And that's what I'm saying when I say live what it is we say we believe. But we don't do that. What, man? Yeah, I see you, man.
You know, this is my subject. These are my subjects. I love these. I love the social subjects. While War loved the technology subjects, Brother E loves, I don't know what the hell Brother E loves. Brother E loves being contradictory. But these are my subjects, because I think this is where it starts at, with the family, the relationship between the man and the woman. Now, we're in a messed up situation, no doubt. You know, I could say black men dropped the ball. I could say, hell, the ball will beat out our hands. I don't know, but we in a messed up situation. And we talking about movies, so I'm finna go into another movie. And I'm finna give a lit solutions from Hollywood. But in this situation, the sister was 100% right, because we did a podcast on this where we debated this issue. We had sisters on the podcast. I don't know if y'all remember when we was on what was it? Brought some radio. We used to be on that a couple of years back. But anyway, we did this subject. And the sister's right. That was my argument back then, that a woman cannot raise a boy to be a man because she simply does not have a man in her. But I said I was gonna go to a movie. Let's look at the Terminator series. Sarah Connor knew that her son was gonna be the leader of the revolutionary movement, of the liberation movement, John Connor. But his father was killed, protecting him in her womb in the first movie. Now, I'm not saying that this really finna happen, but this is my point I'm finna get at. What did Sarah Connor do to make sure John Connor got the training he needed? She made sure she was particular about the type of men she dealt with. She dealt with men who had the ability to train her son to be the future leader of the revolution. And while this is not the opportune position that we should be in, God, the creator, the source, nature, whatever the hell you want to call it, designed family to start with man and woman coming together and rearing children from each other. So somehow, and I ain't even gonna put blame. Y'all figure out who did it. Somehow, excuse my language, y'all fucked it all up. Because instead of doing that, what y'all have done, y'all have created the baby mama, the baby daddy, and you got these kids running around, don't know what the hell to do. And like you just said, it's a woman's nature to be nurturing. She's not trying to do wrong, but when that man is not there for whatever reason, I'm gonna take a hit. I took myself out of my children's life due to my own ego and my own need to express my bravado. And by doing that, I ripped myself out of my children's life. So it left a woman to raise my children, and that woman does not have the ability to express those levels of discipline, those levels of focus that man, me, would have put in my children and created that balance. It wasn't there. And that's so many males growing up in Black communities. That's so many of the males. But I think the sisters need to take the role of Sarah Connor. If they wasn't particular about the man that they decided to create their children with, if they didn't look at him and say that this dude's gonna stay around, this dude is not gonna send himself to prison, this dude's not gonna get himself killed, this dude's not gonna run at the first sight of responsibility. If they wasn't conscious then, when they're holding their babies and breastfeeding them, they need to look at him and say, what type of man do I need to meet and deal with to make sure that I can create a John Connor so we can stop this thing? At some level, this thing has to stop. And men need to be as conscious as the world. I'm gonna give you an example. My mother, I have a fight with my mother. Me and my mother fight because coming up, and I don't know why, I knew I needed to learn manhood. I knew I needed it, and I knew it wasn't in my house. So what did I do? I first hit the streets, and I looked at the OGs and the gangsters and the drug dealers, and I tried to get manhood from them because I thought at the time manhood was the tough guy. I thought that was it. And after a while, I started saying, okay, these dudes don't know anything either. They don't know what's going on. Then I started looking to the intellectuals, the revolutionary thinkers. And I said, let me go around these guys. Maybe I can pick up some manhood from there. So I was on a journey trying to develop that manhood and my understanding of manhood. I was on that journey, I have a little brother. My brother He wasn't on that journey. He was in the house with my mother. And my mother was doing what you just said the women do. And she's still doing it. And he's not capable of conquering, of slaying the dragon. He's not capable. He's not capable of dealing with our reality. He's just not. And he's made a lot of mistakes in his life. And even after those mistakes, and I've, to some degree, developed my own personal manhood from pulling it together from brothers that I've been around in the Panther Party, even brothers I studied that I've never met in my life. I've sat at their feet. Malcolm X, Shaka Zulu, Mandela. I sat at these dudes' feet, and I studied these dudes, and I tried to piece together my ideals and concepts of manhood from different levels, from what these brothers taught, from what these brothers believed, from what these brothers understood. And when it came to my brother is the unconscious nigga. He's the unconscious Negro. He ain't Killmonger. He's the unconscious Negro that's big enough and twisted enough to be dangerous with no consciousness and no knowledge or no principles guide his actions. And one of the things that I argue with my mother about is letting him fall. Just letting him fall, letting him hit the ground, letting the prodigal son in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Letting him be in the pig slop. Because every time he says he don't need his family. He don't need his mama. He don't need his brother. And he goes out and he messes up and he turns back to his mother and he says, okay, save me. And his mother grabs him because she just can't let him go because she loves him so much. And she pulls him just enough out of the dirt till he said, all right, let me go. I got it now. And then he started back doing the fool again. And then as soon as he starts to sink, he say, save me. And she grab him again and she holds him. And that's an error. That's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Cause a man, me, if I was his father, I wouldn't do it. I'd let him sink and sink and sink and sink and sink until he finally says, okay, teach me. I don't want to be saved. I want to be liberated. Teach me what I need to do to get free from this destructive mentality I have that keeps killing me. Teach me. And a woman, a loving mother, really can't do that because she hates to see him hurting, hates to see him crying. She hates it. And this is the flaw that's going on in our community. This is the problem. I really believe this is the problem, and not just in his situation, just period. Just all around, period. When you look at the conditions of I hate that baby mama, baby daddy shit. I hate it. I hate it with all my heart. I don't think that shit is natural. I don't think it's natural. I hate it. I hate every aspect of it. And we need to cut that bullshit out. We need to cut it out. You know, I hate it. I'm gonna be quiet because I'm going on a tirade now.
Let me say this, y'all. Need to begin to wrap up. Going back to how the movie ends. It ends with the next Panther coming into the fold without a father. So what is Hollywood gonna do with that? And where are they gonna send that message going right back to the manipulation of what we just got through talking about?
And
you can be a superhero Panther without two parents, without the proper upbringing and guidance and all of that, reinforcement of that bullshit.
That baby mama and baby daddy shit. Surely, I need to pay attention to that.
Rashida was little. We were headed over. I guess I was taking them back to their mama's house, and we was having some conversation, and she referred to me as her mama's baby daddy. We were on the expressway on like I-20. I pulled over and got out the car, and we had a conversation like, nah, I'm not a baby daddy. I'll never be a baby daddy ever in my life. That's not, no. But yeah, that's some Kevin Samuel shit you was putting out. It is. It's the, and I'm not disagreeing at all. It's the choices that we make. Again, the options are out there, but those options that are most beneficial, what we need, are more difficult. You have to go and find a motherfucker with some sense. You can find a dude with money everywhere. Niggas got money. But if you want somebody that is going to be able to do all of those things that you listed off and that we've talked about, you've got to seek and find. But you've not only got to seek and find, you've got to be what it is you're looking for.
True
you
indeed.
can't, you've got to be able, a sister, a brother too, has to be able to reflect what it is they're looking for in that other, and be able to accept what it is they're looking for in that other. But that's a science. Elijah talked about it, and some other folks talked about it, the science of sex, the science of choosing a mate, the science of thinking about what it is.
Brother Syke talked about it when he developed the Uhuru Shule.
Brother Syke talked about it when he developed the Uhuru Shule, about thinking about the characteristics that this somebody is bringing into the fold. And I think that there's been some level, I don't say revelation, but there's this idea or this realization, and maybe it's just age, where sisters have gotten to the point where they're starting to realize that this pursuit of money, this pursuit of being a boss and all of that. Matter of fact, your homegirl, Cardi B, there was an interview, she had an interview, and the guy asked her, with all the stuff that she's able to do, with all this money she's making, is she happy? And she lamented for a minute and was like, I'm glad that I'm able to give my family, you know, my moms and all of them, all of these things and da 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 da. But the things I have to do to get it, you know, sometimes I'm just not happy. So there's this sort of some level of awakening, of realization that these, you know, it's like a doctor. One of the reasons I don't want to fuck with a doctor, I'm gonna die at the house. Die of something I don't know about because I don't want to fuck with them some bitches. I might go and get a diagnosis, but I'm not taking whatever it is they tell me I need to take simply because whatever they give me, we all know this. And our sister, when they give us a medicine to take, inevitably that medicine is going to lead to some more side issues. And those side issues, we're going to have to take some more medicine to deal with those side issues. And each of those medicines is going to lead to another symptom, another side issue that we're going to have to take some more medicine to get to. It's the same thing about the same idea with economics. We get something because it's not the thing that makes us, it's like you talked about this when you're talking about how you talked about economics with some of the cats when you was on vacation. It's not the thing, it's not the toy, because if it was about the TV or the shoes or the car, or whatever it is, we'd be content once we got it. But it's not. We constantly want something else. So it's not the having the thing, it's the power that we feel in getting the thing. We're able to purchase this. That's a high. There's the retail therapy, that's some real shit. That's some real shit. And so we retail therapy ourselves in order to numb ourselves, not be happy, but to numb ourselves. And when that starts to wear off, we have to go and do some more retail therapy to numb ourselves again, because it wears off like any high. You're gonna come down off of weed, crack, meth, whatever it is, you're gonna come down. And when you come down off that high of purchasing something, you gotta purchase some more, and you gotta purchase some more. So just like the medication, you got to keep anesthetizing. I hate that word because I can't say it right, but you know, making yourself numb, like Malcolm talked about, putting that Novocaine in your jaw. You got to keep re-upping and re-upping and re-upping to keep that high, to keep that buzz. And every time we get something, if you ever notice, when we get one thing, that thing, if it's a TV, okay, I got a TV back in the day, okay, now I need a VCR. Now it's well, I got to get Netflix. Okay, now I got Netflix. Now I need to get the Netflix family thing so everybody can use it. Okay, I got the Netflix. So now I got to, each purchase leads to another purchase. And so it's like the doctor and the medication. We get one medication and that leads to something else we want. So we got to get that. So we got to get that. So we have to constantly be in the state of getting something to numb ourselves and to help us feel powerful and to help us to move forward or think or believe that we're moving forward and whatnot. And it's this never-ending cycle. So, you know, it's yeah, I mean, that again goes into what it is, the choices that we're making. If we're choosing a mate who has, we don't even think about, all we want is the immediate gratification, whether it's purchasing something or it's being with somebody. Because let's face it, most sisters, Outkast, this is kind of vulgar, but in one of their songs, I forget which one it was, looking for love off in your jaw. So essentially replacing that sexual or using that sexual gratification to replace actual love, because we didn't get that love when we were young, because our families were broken up, because our mother and father weren't there. And so that's the basis for our choosing a mate when we're 20, as opposed to choosing a mate when we're 40 or 50 or whatever. By this point in time, yeah, that shit didn't work. I need to try something else. So we don't put thought processes into who it is we want to be with. We run on our emotions, which is another issue that this society, you know, encourages, is just living based off our emotion and making these decisions based on how we feel as opposed to what we think. And so that's another part of the educational process. We make the hard decisions. No, you can't have that because it's not good for you. Yes, it feels great. But no, you can't have it. We can't afford it. It's not healthy for you. Fuck that. You can't have it. And that's usually something that the baba, that the father brings to the mix, because the sister, because of her emotions, because she's softer, again, not a diss. That's just the reality of it. That's a part of what she brings to the table. It's necessary and it needs to be there. But in certain situations, those decisions have to be made where it's no. Fuck how you feel about it. This is what you need. I don't give a damn. Me and my first wife used to go back and forth about that with Rashid and Tahimba all the time. So there you go.
Hey, let me make one point quick, and then I'm done talking.
And that's good. And that's good because we only got a few minutes. I was just gonna say if y'all got some points to make, and it would be good if y'all make some points about the movie. That we been getting ready to shut this thing down.
Was it a movie? What movie?
We were talking about a movie.
Oh, I got a point before your point. My point, y'all know a black woman wrote the Terminator and the Matrix, right? You know that was a sister.
Oh yeah,
yes.
And she sued the sister that wrote the Matrix sued the Wachowski brothers at the time. They're sisters now. Yes, but she sued them and won. So you know she wrote it because you never win that shit. Nobody ever wins those types of lawsuits. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let me make my point here. And this just kind of goes into how we have to understand the psychology behind why I keep throwing up the CIA in that aspect of the movie, because the whole point is to create an image that destroys the revolutionary type on screen in order for it to subconsciously work within the same expression in real life. See, Killmonger was right, but the problem with it,
he was right,
is that his name itself is self-defeating. Okay, he's a monger. And what is a monger? A person who promotes a specific activity or situation or feeling, especially one that is undesirable or discreditable. Okay, that's why we have him as a killmonger. Whereas like what I talked about when I talked about making a real life Wakanda, I talked about the warmonger. So what you got going on here is us calling something or casting a spell as we say this name of a revolutionary type. We refer to this revolutionary type as being a killmonger. And by doing that, although we like what he was representing, that what we're doing is we're casting him into a position of being the enemy of the African, which is why the Black Panther, the African Black Panther, had to kill the killmonger. You see? And so we have to be careful about what Hollywood is actually doing. Hollywood is creating these scenarios again to where the average person subconsciously is not able to distinguish reality from fiction. And from that standpoint, they will sit up here and debate all day long the essence of what a Wakanda is and use the fiction to describe what the reality is, not the other way around, not the reality to describe the fiction. And so as a result of that, the whole concept of revolutionary type that really needs to be portrayed, that really needs to be what is promoted, that really needs to be what we are about, is a killmonger. And what we end up with is a cat that's raised by a woman with no father. It started that way with Killmonger, and it's ending that way with Black Panther 2. Just remember the polarities and the similarities between both of the stories. And I'm done with my part.
Anybody else got anything to say before we close out?
Let the sister have the last word. What you got to say?
It's like education is key. We need to stay balanced or regain balance. And there are so many of us, because we talk about slavery, post-slavery disorder, whatever. It's so many of us who are, and this is like cliche now, but it's real. Before it was cliche, we're not healed because we don't even know that something is wrong with us. And so before we can effectively address our familial status, before we can effectively address our socioeconomic status, before we can even address our spiritual status, a lot of us need fucking therapy. And we don't even know. Maybe we do know, but we just haven't had it. Because it's like we used to talk to our grandmamas and our grandfathers and our aunties, they gone. They're not there. And so now we got to pay better help to go sit on somebody's virtual couch because you ain't even got to go in now and talk to them about your shit. And you don't even know that you need to talk to somebody about your shit until you're in your 40s and your 50s. It's like, dang, I keep the same cycle. Why do I keep going through that?
Yeah.
Because you need to talk to somebody about your shit. We don't know that. And if you don't have a socioeconomic, I don't even want to say background, if you ain't got the money to do that, you talk to your friends. They don't fucking know either. Because your friends are your friends because y'all in the same boat. And so you can't talk to the people that's out there hurting the same way you hurting and expect that you're gonna get an answer from them, because you're not. They don't have the capacity to give you an answer. Just like Brother E said, he gonna die at the house because he ain't going to the doctor. You need to take your ass to the doctor about some shit. You just do. It's like not everything, but you do. And you're not even gonna know what you need to go to the doctor about until you get to the doctor. And I can say that as a nurse practitioner. Take your ass to the doctor. You need to see him. For real, you're half a century old. Go on. What the fuck? You know how many people get to the hospital saying, my mama ain't never been to the doctor, now she dead. Cause she ain't come to the fucking doctor. What are you talking about?
And what you talking about now?
If we don't take nothing else from this, take your ass to the doctor. And Brother E's old dust ass is half a century old.
And that also goes into one of the parallels we talking about within the story. A lot of the black men, because of our ego, we end up dying in our mid 50s or late 40s because we got too much pride to go to the goddamn doctor to find out what's wrong with us, so that we ain't able to be elders to help raise our grandchildren. So that even ties right into what we've been talking about. And let me say this, and then I'm gonna be quiet again. Felicia, we need you back on our show, okay? Don't let this be the only time, okay? So I'm giving you an opportunity to continue coming on our show, because we need that power that you brought today.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was definitely powerful. And cause I saw it myself. He ain't just talking. We appreciate you, sister, for coming on the show. We appreciate your
Thanks for
perspective.
inviting me.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. We can kind of be boring and old and crusty, and you put some balance out there, so we loved it. Anyway, this was your Panther 48. This was our perspective of Wakanda Forever. You know,
Kind of, sorta.
Cause we do what we do. You know, we do what we want to do. So we did what we do. We revolutionaries here. We go against the grain a little bit. But anyway, peace and power.
All power to be.
Hey, y'all. Thank y'all.